As Akugo sees Obiora, she starts screaming, "Blood of Jesus! Blood of Jesus! Who am I seeing? So you can walk now. Is this really you, Obiora?" With tears in her eyes, Obiora hugs her. Akugo and her mom were sent packing from their home simply because of her wicked uncle who decided to take over her dead father's property, as it is in their custom. Since Uloma did not give birth to a male child, the properties of her dead husband was passed down to his only surviving brother, Chief Obi. Jessica is seen driving, talking aloud to herself. "Oh my God, this is not what I bargained. I wanted a perfect home, only for me to return from the States and see Obiora on a wheelchair. I cannot take it. And they want me to marry a man on a wheelchair? It cannot happen. How will I live with him, crippled for the rest of his life, taking care of all his needs? Ha! That one is too much. Oh. A first class degree holder from Harvard, not me, over my dead body. I cannot." Obiora is wheeling himself on the wheelchair on the street, looking tired and exhausted. Suddenly, he is hit by a car, and the driver of the car comes down and starts shouting, "Mr. Cripple, next time you look before wheeling your wheelchair to cross the road." She hisses and enters her car and drives away. Obiora starts shedding tears and saying to himself, "Jessica, you that I used my wealth to train in school and even sent abroad to further your studies, only for you to return and reject me just because I am on a wheelchair and crippled. Oh, life is not fair." Oh. Akubo is walking on the street as she sees Obiora, who was about to fall off his wheelchair. She runs over to assist him. He is grateful to her for her kindness. Akubo offers to buy him food, but Obiora insists on following her home since he does not have a place to stay. Akubo declines, saying that she and her mom are homeless and they stay in an abandoned, uncompleted building. After much persuasion, she accepts and brings Obiora to her house, which is an uncompleted building. Meanwhile, Akugo's madam is seen shouting on her for neglecting her work just to go out, and now customers are complaining, and for her misconduct she has been sacked. She was never to step her feet in that premises. With tears in her eyes, she went back home and meets Obiora the cripple with her mom. She narrates how she has lost her job that feeds them. Obiora mama consoles her that it is well. She then resorted to hawking on the street to make ends meet. She is seen feeding Obiora, who now stays with them in an abandoned, uncompleted building. Even when he was sick, she takes good care of him, not minding how discomforting taking care of a crippled man can be. After some months, Obiora tells her that he wants to travel down to visit his relative, that he will be back the next day. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into days. Obiora has not yet returned. This bothered Akugo, as she makes effort to search for him, but all the people she asked says they did not see any crippled man, as she described. One day, the owner of the abandoned building walks in and finds Akugo and Mama cooking. He starts shouting, "What's the meaning of this? Who are these beggars? Will you pack your things immediately and leave this place? This is not a refugee camp." They start pleading, "Sir, please, we don't have anywhere to go. Biko, help us." He calls his boys, who bundles them and their property and throws them out of the building. Jessica is seen talking to a driver to a rich man. "Abeg, help me. Connect me to this your boss. I will reward you generously. I need this connect, abeg." The driver man promises to do her biddings, so long as he will get a cut out of it. As they were talking, Obiora steps out and demands for his car keys, only to see Jessica with his driver. He then asks her, "What are you doing here?" She could not answer as she was in shock. He enters his car and drives off. Jessica starts crying, explaining to the driver that his oga was her ex-fiancé who sent her to school abroad, only for her to return and see him crippled due to an accident he had. He was paralyzed for life, and he was not just only paralyzed but also a poor man. He lost his wealth All his inheritance were seized by the bank because his parents owed the banks. She said she could not stand marrying a crippled man, so she did what was best for her by abandoning him, only for her to find out that he could now walk. She was in shock and she was in pain as she started shedding tears. The driver man had no choice but to walk her out of the premises, since that he was his oga's ex-fiancé and that the oga will not be happy if he comes back and sees her still in the premises. Meanwhile, Obiora returns to search for Akugo and Mama in the abandoned building, only to notice that they were no longer staying there. He was confused. He searched and searched for them, but he could not find them. He even went around asking for their whereabouts, but nobody in the vicinity was able to give him an answer. Meanwhile, Akugo and Mama, having no other option, resorted to begging on the street. They begged from morning till evening to get their daily meal. In one of Obiora's search missions, as he was driving past a market, he sees two women on the roadside begging for alms. As he was about to give them his own offering, immediately he recognizes them as Akugo and Mama. With tears of joy in his eyes, he immediately comes down from the car, and as Akugo sees him, she starts shouting, "Blood of Jesus, who am I seeing? So you can walk now, Obiora. Is this really you?" With tears in her eyes, Obiora hugs her and takes she and Mama to his mansion. Akugo and Mama were still in shock as they entered the mansion. Obiora then explained to them how he acquired a huge inheritance from his parents who were now late, and how he noticed that people around him loved him for his wealth. They were always asking and disturbing him from one favor to the other. Then, so he had a plan to disguise as a cripple to find out who really loved him amongst his trusted friends. But lo and behold, all of them ran away as they saw him in a crippled state. And not just being a crippled state, he became poor because the banks came and seized his assets, leaving him with nothing. He had to leave his mansion and move to the street to start begging. Even all his friends that he called up to assist him financially, they all refused to pick their calls. Even some of his trusted friends refused to accommodate him. That made him to be homeless. He was now left with no other choice than go into the street. That was when Akugo met him. He also narrated with tears in his eye how his fiancée that he sent abroad, on she returning home and seeing him crippled in a wheelchair, also abandoned him. That it was only Akugo and Mama that stood by him and took care of him, even when all abandoned him because he was crippled and poor. There and then, he immediately proposed to Akugo and promised to give her and Mama a good life since he is now a wealthy man. With tears of joy in Akugo's heart, she accepted and they got married and had beautiful kids. I hope you did enjoy this story. I've come to the end of this story. If this is your first time, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button and turn on your bell button for latest update. For my returning subscribers, a big thank you.